Hello everyone, this is Goober from FactionFiles.com, and this is just going to be a very short video tutorial on how to import custom textures for use in Red Editor. I'm going to be using REDPF, obviously, because I'm using pure Faction. You don't have to, but it is a good idea, especially if you want to use advanced mapping techniques, which are very cool, let me tell you. First of all, just a basic installation of Red Faction here. I've cleaned all my custom content out of this. This is just a folder that I made with all the files that we need. I'm just going to launch up Red, and if I go to texture mode, as you can see, custom texture category. Now, this is because in user maps we have a textures folder. Let's just go ahead and delete that folder, and I'm going to go and delete my red config file. You won't need to do this. I launch Red, and it gives me an error saying that the path doesn't exist, Red Faction user maps textures. Now this means that if I go into texture mode, I will not see a custom texture category. That might be a problem that some of you will run into if you've downloaded or installed a copy of Red Faction and deleted the textures folder. I'm just going to go to user maps and create a textures folder, and now I can launch Red again and get a fresh config file. And now if I go to texture again, you will see that there is a custom texture category. Now there's nothing in it yet, but I'm just going to find something to use. Let's see. Let's go to, I'll just copy one from my old installation. Alright, let's just take let's take this texture. This is just a brown floor texture. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to paste it into my user maps textures folder. Just turn on thumbnail so you can see it. Now that this is in my textures folder, if I load up Red again, now you have to restart Red after you do this. I load up Red again, I go to texture mode, and I can select my custom texture category, and there's our texture. I'll just create a brush, and our texture is on it. Our texture is on it. Now this is a custom texture, and it works perfectly with the game. If I were to just find my installation, save this to multi, I'll just save it as custom test. Create a pack file, and I'll just play it. As you can see, our custom texture is in our map. Now, there's a couple of other things I do want to show you. First of all, if I go into multi, and this is my pack file, my VPP file, if I open this, you're going to see, here's our map file, and here's our texture file. You can see it there if you're using VPP Viewer like I am. Here's our texture file. Now, this automatically got packed with our file. If you look at Red's console, when we created a level pack file, the two files that it added were custom test.rfl and merkrustfluoro1.tga. These custom textures that you use in your map, any custom textures that you use in your map, with the exception of custom textures that you put on liquid surfaces, be aware of that, because you're going to need to pack them in manually or put them on a brush somewhere in your map so that they'll get also packed. I don't know how Volition forgot that, but I guess they did. Anyway, custom textures get packed with your level file, unlike custom wave files, which you do need to do manually, or put in another VPP file. Okay, the last thing I want to show you is this texture, as you can see, has MTL underscore before it. Just think of this as the texture name. Or no, this as the texture name, everything after the MTL underscore. TGA is obviously the extension. Files have to be in either Targa or VBM, which I think stands for Volition Bitmap. Those are used for animated textures or compressing. The tool to convert Targa files to VBM files can be found in the RF toolkit. This MTL, that designates the material for this texture. Now if I just open up my tables file and materials, here you can see all of the materials that RedFaction has. You can see default, which is just if you have no prefix, and that plays rock sounds and it has all these properties. This is rock, which has RCK or RCH underscore before the map name, or before the texture file name. MTL underscore or steel underscore designate metal, FLE or flesh underscore designates flesh, WTR is water, LVA is lava, and so on. You can check out materials.tbl inside tables.vpp yourself if you like, but this is going to specify properties of this texture, such as the footstep sounds. That's going to be the most obvious change. But if I change this to water, and then I'm just going to close Red, because remember I said you had to restart Red. I'm going to load back up my file, and as you can see, these change to missing textures because that texture no longer exists, because I renamed it. I'm going to put the water texture on this. I'm going to save it and create a pack file. Now if I load up the map, well, you can hear if you shoot it. No, you can't hear, but I can, that when you shoot it, the impact sounds are different, they're water, and the footstep sounds are also different. But if I load this map, because I can't load it up in multi, just resave it. VM test, yeah, that'll work. If I load this map up in multiplayer, especially, it also happens in single player, but it's more noticeable in multi, you've got more traction on this. Your movements register a lot more, or a lot easier. You can move very accurately rather than metal or any other surface in the game, where it's easy to dodge shots, but on this it's extremely easy because the second you hit the key you start moving. Your traction is a lot more. And as you saw when I had the table file open, let me just do that again, the traction values are set differently, as well as the elasticity, friction, density, buoyancy, are set differently for all the texture prefixes. As you can see, ice, the traction is not very much because it's ice, you slide on it. Sand is 0.6, glass is 0.8, solid and flesh and metal and rock and default are all 1, that's just the default value. And as you can see, water is 2, which means that it has double the traction of any normal, I'll say, prefix. But yeah, that's pretty much it. You can use this for whatever custom textures you need to use. Just ensure that they are the correct sizing, which would be powers of 2, so you can use any variation between 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, 512, 1024, or no, don't go up to 1024 because RF doesn't do proper scaling. When you get into looking at level of detail and bitmaps, let me just load it again and show you an example of bitmaps. You go to Options, Video, and you turn down the texture resolution to low, it scales the texture. This won't work properly if you're using any, or a texture with any dimension greater than 512, or no, 256 pixels, so you generally shouldn't do that unless it's a very special case. But yeah, that's about it. Just Targa form with 32-bit for alpha or 24-bit for non-alpha textures, and VBMs and other stuff. Just put the material prefix before them. Back here, material prefix before them, and they will work properly. If you don't put any, like I said before, it'll default to default, which is very similar, if not identical, to the rock. But yeah, so that concludes this video, and we'll see you next time.